Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense, a weekly podcast providing updates and insight into the latest in cybersecurity. Brought to you by LBMC Information Security. Now, here's your host.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cybersecurity Sense with your host, William Parks. Today we're going to be talking about some very interesting things, especially on the front of cyber mercenaries and how they're for hire and representing a shifting criminal business model within the industry, which may sound kind of confusing and complex, but that's okay because we're going to break this down. So let's go ahead and start getting on top of what this is about. So specifically, there's one particular group that's emerging in the cyber gang space. They're emerging, they're fast growing, and they have a unique business model to offer cyber criminals. And basically, it's just a broad range of services that span from leaked databases and distributed denial of service attacks to hacking scripts and blah, 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 so on and so forth. You get the whole gist of it. In the future, they're looking at distributing potentially ransomware. That's so far what we know from an intelligence group that goes by CyberInt. But their nickname is the Atlas Intelligence Group, or AIG, or the Atlantis Cyber Army. Those are all nicknames that they have given themselves, this group. And they were first detected in May, and they initially appeared to be basically your run-of-the-mill data leakage gang. But according to any kind of threat intelligence researchers that work at CyberInt, they say that there's a clear picture of AIG, and it became very obvious that the group's operations were anything but normal, pretty not run-of-the-mill activity going on. So what's interesting about this, on the most part, is that since it's becoming more profitable, with some groups bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars, there are threat groups that have evolved to include business models that honestly resemble, and they're very closely linked to how normal business models go, right? You know, some of these companies, they really, they have time off. They're constantly hiring people. They have CEOs. They have HR departments. They have all these things that resemble our normal, legitimate companies. And that was primarily shown earlier in the year when the information leaks from the Conti ransomware group were distributed out to the public. And that was very eye-opening for a lot of people, because I think that was kind of one of the biggest steps that the public, at least, has seen as far as how advanced these specific groups or threat actors go, right? And so the number of services and the variety of services that AIG offers are different than most cybercriminal gangs, which is what makes them unique. In addition to, rather than hiring people that tend to stay with the operators, as most gangs do, Atlas hires what CyberInt calls cyber mercenaries, quote unquote, to do specific jobs for particular campaigns, and then recruits and other freelancers for other jobs with other techs. So they're kind of outsourcing in a sense, much like how we would do a software development kind of gig, or we outsource to other people, other companies, freelancers per se. So I found that very interesting. And only the leader of AIG and a handful of administrators really know what the full campaign looks like. So it's not even something that's really well laid out to everybody that's a part of it, except for those that are in like that C-suite, like chief executive area of the business, quote unquote. And cyber mercenaries work only on particular tasks, but don't have a view of the larger picture. Quote unquote, this technique creates segregation between the participants and keeps all those doing the dirty work in the dark, the CyberInt researchers wrote in a report. Applying this technique results in a high level of operations security for the operators and helps them avoid ongoing relationships with other threat actors, which in turn makes it more of, like they said, in the dark. So if someone were to snitch or someone were to say something, people would not really find out much about them. But this is not ordinary. Or should I say, this is not an ordinary threat group, both in the way they behave and the way that they manage their campaigns. When comparing them to other cyber syndicates, we see the clear behavior of a cartel as we witness their leaders serve as architects of the campaigns, while the mercenaries follow the mastermind's orders. And the leader of the group is called Mr. Eagle, and underneath him is at least 4 admins. The researchers basically stated that Mr. Eagle appears to be mature and professional with strict rules for managing the group, including banning and kicking out cybercriminals who tried to advertise themselves and their products. And basically, the admins run the Atlas advertising management and the operations of its channels, at times communicating with followers. And none of the cyber mercenaries are permanent members of the group or its campaigns. So they're kind of just burn and churn, right? We see that oftentimes a lot in some other organizations, some other deep organizations. But none of the cyber mercenaries are permanent, so that's just an important thing to remember. In its recruiting of mercenaries, AIG appears to seek out red teamers and experts in social engineering and open source intelligence, which, go figure, social engineering and open source intelligence go hand in hand, right? Social engineering is one of the huge things that's happening right now in the industry, especially whenever it comes to phishing over the phone in order to gain information or have that person do something that you would like them to do. We saw very similar, eerily similar things of that with Twitter, and just how Twitter was able to be compromised, or should I say socially engineered. And I know that our team does a lot of engagements that are very similar. We do phishing, vishing, smishing, you name it, all the ishings, all the social engineering stuff. We do it. So we do like that work, and we feel like it helps clients or helps people a lot to understand what the real scope of the threat is, because a lot of people think that it can't happen to them. But because the contracts given out by Atlas are reoccurring, Cyberant says it appears the group's leaders aren't tied to the same individuals, that their campaigns have different mercenaries. And so researchers saw ads for open contracts for single jobs without joining Atlas gang, for people skilled in spear phishing and social engineering, and offers of publishing contracts for web hackers. So services like denial of service and leaked databases are in line with what the groups offer. And Atlas charges about $20.50 per DDoS victim and has leaked databases for sale starting at about $15.40. The databases come from all over the world and from a range of business sectors, including education, finance, government, manufacturing, and tech. However, other services are more sophisticated and require more skills, such as hacked panels and initial access. The group has into targeted organizations with sales starting at $1,000. And there are also what Atlas calls VIP services, with the gang advertising it has connections with people in law enforcement in Europe who can supply sensitive information about certain individuals. Now, this capability is impressive, actually, not just because of the potential information that might be obtained, but also because it shows how deep the group goes, as they are committed to their crime organization, not only in the cyber realm, which is, again, like I said, kind of makes them really, really dangerous. So AIG runs 3 channels on the Telegram app, or the Telegram social network, and they all have thousands of subscribers. And the first channel is a database marketplace. The second is where Mr. Eagle and his admins publish contracts. And through this, subscribers can offer their services. And the third channel is used to post the group's announcements, including doxing scammers, upcoming targets, and updates. And through Telegram, Atlas also shares exploit kits with malicious content, including source code from various malware families, as a way to find the right mercenaries that the group needs for a particular campaign. So AIG also uses an e-commerce store on the sellix.io platform to sell its services, with payment coming in cryptocurrency. Now, sellix.io operates as a middleman for Atlas, which gives the group another layer of anonymity and security. Now, the AIG gang seems to do whatever benefits it most, and there aren't specific industries or regions it focuses on. So that being said, looking at the group's e-commerce store, the researchers found that most of the databases for sale are government related, and that access to remote desktop protocol clients and web shells tend to come from organizations in the finance, education, and manufacturing industries. Now, in an unusual twist, Atlas also appears to make a point of hunting down and doxing pedophiles, having published the personal data, including home addresses, phone numbers, and pictures of several people in Europe. And over the past months, we have seen many new threat groups emerging, some from the ransomware sector, some data leakers, and some from the malware development sector, but all of them used pretty much the same advertising and team assembling techniques. In Atlas's case, it seems that the cybercrime industry is being introduced to a sophisticated, highly anonymous, ambitious, purely logical, and nonchalant threat actor that is looking to leave his or her mark and establish a dominant threat group in the future. So this is all about AIG, a very up and coming kind of cyber mercenary for hire group that really, I mean, honestly, they're making waves in the industry. And I mean, a lot of this stuff ties back to what we tell a lot of our clients and what we tell a lot of people is just ensure that you have your endpoint security up to par, ensure that you have everything locked down and that you know what's happening on your network. You know, just like the last podcast that we have released that I had done, we talked a lot about what are the steps you need to take in order to avoid a ransomware attack, right? You know, that's a hot topic still because it's still a really, really bad thing. And, you know, this incredibly sophisticated group doesn't have that capability of, I guess, dishing out or serving ransomware to its participants yet. I mean, they have the capability, but they're not doing it yet. And so once they start doing that, I have a feeling that's going to kind of boost. You know, the market's already crazy busy on the dark web right now. Lots of people are doing this. There's a lot of traction behind it. So once we see this start to touch this kind of group, I feel like it's only going to go up, just like it has been the past few years. And I mean, the numbers are insane with how much money has been generated in the dark web community just from doing this stuff, you know. So anyway, this is all about AIG, the Atlas Intelligence Group, or the Atlantis Cyber Army. Either name is their name. And this is just a little tidbit about them to help you stay aware and understand what's going on. Found this article on the Register, and so we are going to basically just share it with everybody. I thought that it was very interesting. It's always eye-opening and insightful to see this kind of stuff and just have a nice little reminder that, hey, you know, I know that security is tough. I know that it's hard, but, you know, this makes me feel good that we do this stuff that we do. This makes me feel good that, you know, we invested in that endpoint protection system. It makes me feel good that our SIM is really looking over all the logs. It makes me feel good that our firewalls are in place or checked, or pen tests happen to ensure the security works. And, you know, it's always a good reminder. So anyway, with that being said, guys, I hope that you guys have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to the LBMC Information Security Sense podcast, and we will see you here on another episode.